Yes, Prabhu, you can start.
ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं तदेयं दातवेतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्ते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्नीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Haribol. Oh, 1 second. What did I do?
So Prabhu, we have to recite Mangalam prayer.
Is this? Yes, Prabhu, here it is.
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृणोतं सुकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदयन्तस्थो भद्राणि वितनोति सताम् यस् नष्टप्रायेत भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Yes, bro, thank you.
Before reciting the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Shri Vyasadeva, the author. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma Supersoul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the person of Godhead who is praised with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. So, who wants to read today first? from text number 33.
I will read, bro.
Okay, Haribol, can you scroll, Prabhu?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very nice. Then I can cut potatoes.
Sure.
प्रवीण
So-
प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम जय श्री प्रभुपाद
Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu, Jai Shri Prabhu,
Oh.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for
To all
joining.
of you, Prabhu, Panjal Prabhu also, I think it's been a long time since we joined this session.
Yes, Prabhu, your transcendental voice was not there, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Haribol, yes.
So, Canto 4, Chapter 9, Dhruva Maharaj returns home, text 33. Devi Mayam Upasritya Prasupta Iva Bhinna Drik Tapye द्वितीयेऽपि असति भ्रातृव्य रुजा. Synonyms: Daivim, of the personality of Godhead; Mayam, the illusory energy; Upasritya, taking shelter of; Prasuptaha, dreaming while asleep; Iva, like; Bhinnadrik, having separated vision; Tapye, I lamented; Dvitiye, in the illusory energy; Api, although; Asati, temporary; Bhratru, brother; Bhratrutva, enemy; Bhratrivya, enemy; Krit, within the heart; Ruja, by lamentation. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation: Dhruva Maharaj lamented, I was under the influence of the illusory energy, being ignorant of the actual facts. I was sleeping on her lap. Under a vision of duality, I saw my brother as my enemy, and falsely I lamented within my heart, thinking they are my enemies. Point to be noted here. Purport: real knowledge is revealed to a devotee only when he comes to the right conclusion about life by the grace of the Lord. Our creation of friends and enemies within this material world is something like dreaming at night. I repeat, our creation of friends and enemies within this material world is something like dreaming at night. In dreams, we create so many things out of various impressions in the subconscious mind, but all such creations are simply temporary and unreal. In the same way, although apparently we are awake in material life, because we have no information of the soul and the super soul, we create many friends and enemies simply out of imagination. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that within this material world or material consciousness, good and bad are the same. The distinction between good and bad is simply a mental concoction. The actual fact is that all living entities are sons of God or byproducts of his marginal energy. Because of our being contaminated by the modes of material nature, we distinguish one spiritual spark from another. That is also another kind of dreaming. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that those who are actually learned do not make any distinction between a learned scholar, a Brahmana, an elephant, a dog, and a Chandala. They don't see in terms of the external body, but they see the person as spirit soul. By higher understanding, one can know that the material body is nothing but a combination of the five material elements. In that sense, also the bodily construction of a human being and that of a demigod are one and the same. From the spiritual point of view, we are all spiritual sparks, parts and parcels of the Supreme Spirit God. Either materially or spiritually, we are basically one, but we make friends and enemies as dictated by the illusory energy. Dhrumaraj therefore said, Daivim Mayam Upashritya. The cause of his bewilderment was his association with the illusory material energy. Text 34. मयैतत् प्रार्थितं व्यर्थं चितित् सेव गतायुषी प्रसाद्य जगत् आत्मानं तपस्या दुष्प्रसादनं भव चिद्दम् अयाचेहं भवं भाग्य विवर्जितः. Synonyms. Maya, by me. Etat, this. Prarthitam, prayed for. Vyartham, uselessly. Chikitsa, treatment. Iva, like. Gata, has ended. Ayushi, for one whose life. Prasadya, after satisfying. Jagat Atmanam, the soul of the universe. Tapasa, by austerity. Dushprasadanam, who is very difficult to satisfy. Bhavachiddam, the personality of Godhead who can cut the chain of birth and death. Ayache, prayed for. Aham, I, Bhavam. Again, repetition of birth and death. Bhagya, fortunate. Vivarjitaha, being without. Translation. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in my case, although I have satisfied the super soul of the whole universe, I have prayed only for useless things. My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who is already dead. Just see how unfortunate I am, for in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord, who can cut one's link with birth and death, I have prayed for the same conditions again. Purport. Sometimes it so happens that a devotee engaged in the loving service of the Lord desires some material benefit in exchange for this service. This is not the proper way to discharge devotional service. Out of ignorance, of course, sometimes a devotee does so, but Dhrumaraj regrets his personal behavior in this connection. Text 35. Savrajyam yacchato maudhyan mano me bhikshito bata ishvarat kshina punyena phali karan ivadhanaha. Synonyms. Swarajyam, his devotional service. Yacchataha, from the Lord, who was willing to offer. Maudhyat, by foolishness. Manaha, material prosperity. Me, by me. Bhikshitaha, was asked for. Bata, alas. Ishwarat, from a great emperor. Kshena, reduced. Punyena, whose pious activities. Phalikaran, broken particles of husked rice. Iva, like. Adhanaha, a poor man. Translation. Because of my state of complete foolishness and paucity of pious activities, although the Lord offered me his personal service, still I wanted material name, fame, and prosperity. My case is just like that of the poor man who, when he satisfied a great emperor who wanted to give him anything he might ask, out of ignorance, asked only a few broken grains of husked rice. Purport. In this verse, the word Swarajyam, which means complete independence, is very significant. A conditioned soul does not know what complete independence is. Complete independence means a situation in one's own constitutional position. The real independence of a living entity who is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to remain always dependent on the Supreme Lord, just like a child who plays in complete independence, guided by his parents who watch over him. The independence of the conditioned soul does not mean to fight with the obstacles offered by Maya, but to surrender to Krishna. In the material world, everyone is trying to become completely independent simply by fighting against the obstacles offered by Maya. This is called the struggle for existence. Real independence is to be initiated in the service of the Lord. Anyone who goes to the Vaikuntha planets or Goloka Vrindavan planet is freely offering his service to the Lord. That is complete independence. Just contrary to this is material overlordship, which we wrongly take to be independence. Many great political leaders have tried to establish independence, but due to such so-called independence, the people's dependence has only increased. The living entity cannot be happy trying to be independent in the material world. One has to surrender, therefore, unto the lotus feet of the Lord and engage in his original eternal service. Dhruva Maharaj regrets that he wanted material opulence and greater prosperity than that of his great grandfather, Lord Brahma. His begging from the Lord was like a poor man's asking a great emperor for a few grains of broken rice. The conclusion is that anyone who is engaged in the loving service of the Lord should never ask for material prosperity from the Lord. The awarding of material prosperity simply depends on the stringent rules and regulations of the external energy. Poor devotees ask the Lord only for the privilege of serving Him. Pure devotees, pure devotees ask the Lord only for the privilege of serving Him. This is our real independence. If we want anything else, it is a sign of our misfortune. Text 36. Maitreya Vacha Navai Mukundasya Padaravindayo Rajo Jushastata Bhavadrisha Janaha Vanchanti Tad Dasyam Vrite Ratham Atmano Yadrichya Labdha Manaha Samriddhaya. Synonyms. Maitreya Vacha. The great sage Maitreya continued. Na, never. Why? Certainly. Mukundasya, of the Lord, who can give liberation. Pada Aravindayoho, of the lotus feet. Rajaha Jushaha, persons who are eager to taste the dust. Tata, my dear Vidura. Bhavadrishaha, like yourself. Janaha, persons. Vanchanti, desire. Tat, his. Dasyam, servitorship. Rite, without. Artham, interest. Atmanaha, for themselves. Yadrichaya, automatically. Labdha, by what is achieved. Mana samriddhaya, considering themselves to be very rich. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, persons who, like you, are pure devotees of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can offer liberation, and who are always attached to the honey of his lotus feet, are always satisfied in serving at the lotus feet of the Lord. In any condition of life, such persons remain satisfied, and thus they never ask the Lord for material prosperity. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He is the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor of everything and anything within this creation, and the supreme friend of everyone. When one knows these things perfectly, he is always satisfied. The pure devotee never hankers after any kind of material prosperity. The karmis, however, or jnanis or yogis, endeavor always for their own personal happiness. Karmis work day and night to improve their economic condition. Jnanis undergo severe austerities in order to get liberation, and yogis also undergo severe austerities in order to get liberation. And yogis also undergo severe austerities by practicing the yoga system for attainment of wonderful mystic powers. A devotee, however, is not interested in such activities. He does not want mystic powers or liberation or material prosperity. He is satisfied in any condition of life as long as he is constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. The Lord's feet are compared with the lotus, wherein there is saffron dust. A devotee is always engaged in drinking the honey from the lotus feet of the Lord. Unless one is freed from all material desires, he cannot actually taste the honey from the Lord's lotus feet. One has to discharge his devotional duties without being disturbed by the coming and going of material circumstances. This desirelessness for material prosperity is called nishkama. One should not mistakenly think that nishkama means giving up all desires. That is impossible. A living entity is externally existent and a living entity is eternally existent and he cannot give up desires. A living entity must have desires. That is the symptom of life. When there is a recommendation to become desireless, it is to be understood that this means that we should not desire anything for our sense gratification. For a devotee, this state of mind, nispriha, is the right position. Actually, every one of us already has an arrangement for our standard of material comforts. A devotee should always remain satisfied with the standard of comforts offered by the Lord, as stated in the Ishopanishad. Tena tektena bhunjitaha. This saves time for executing Krishna consciousness. Text 37. Akarnayatma jam ayantam samparetya yatagatam rajana shraddhadhe bhadram abhadrasya kuto mama. Synonyms: Akarnya, having heard; Atmajam, his son; Ayantam, coming back; Samparetya, after dying; Yatha, as if; Agatam, coming back; Raja, king; Uttanapada, na, did not; Shraddhade, have any confidence; Bhadram, good fortune; Abhadrasya, of the impious; Kutaha, whence; Mama, my. Translation. When King Uttanapada heard that his son Dhruva was coming back home, as if coming back to life after death, he could not put his faith in this message, for he was doubtful how it could happen. He considered himself that most wretched, and therefore he thought that it was not possible for him to attain such good fortune. Purport. Dhrumaraj, a 5-year-old boy, went to the forest for penance and austerity, and the king could not at all believe that a small boy of such a tender age could live in the forest. He was certain that he was dead. He therefore could not fix his faith in the message that Dhrumaraj was coming back home again. For him, this message said that a dead man was coming back home, and so he could not believe it. After Dhrumaraj's departure from home, King Uttanapada thought that he was the cause of his leaving, and thus he considered himself the most wretched. Therefore, even though it was possible that his lost son was coming back from the kingdom of death, he thought that since he was the most sinful, it was not possible for him to be so fortunate as to get back his lost son. Text 38. Shraddhaya vakyam devashrer harsha vegena darshitaha varta hatur Atiprito haram pradan mahadhaman dhanam. Synonyms: Shraddhaya, keeping faith; Vakyam in the words Devarshe of the great sage Narada. Harsha Vegena, by great satisfaction. Darshitaha, overwhelmed. Varta Hartuhu, with the messenger who brought the news. Atipritaha, being very satisfied. Haram, a pearl necklace. Pradat, offered. Maha Dhanam, very valuable. Translation: although he could not believe the words of the messenger, he had full faith in the word of the great sage Narada. Thus, he was greatly overwhelmed by the news, and immediately he offered the messenger a highly valuable garland in great satisfaction. Text 39 and 40. Sadash Ashvam Ratham Aruhya Kartaswara Parishkritam Brahmanaihi Kula Vriddhaischa Paryastomatya Bandhubihi Shanka Dundubi Nadena Brahma Ghoshena Venubihi Nishchakrama Purat Turnam Atma Jabhikshano Shanot Sukha synonyms. Sat Ashvam, drawn by very fine horses. Ratham, chariot. Aruhya, getting on. Kataswara, Parishkritam, bedecked with golden filigree. Brahmanaihi, with Brahmanas. Kula Vriddhaihi, along with elderly personalities of the family. Cha, also. Paryastaha, being surrendered. Matya, by officers and ministers. Bandhubhi, and friends. Sanka, of consuls. Dundubhi, and kettle drums. Nadayana, with the sound. Brahma Ghoshana, by the chanting of Vedic mantras. Venubihi, by flutes. Nishkar, Nishchakrama, he came out. Purat, from the city. Turnam, with great haste. Atmaja, son. Abhikshana, to see. Utsukaha, very eager. Translation: then King Uttanapada, being very eager to see the face of his lost son, mounted a chariot drawn by excellent horses and bedecked with golden filigree. Taking with him many learned Brahmanas, all the elderly personalities of his family, his officers, his ministers, and his immediate friends, he immediately left the city. As he proceeded in this parade, there were auspicious sounds of conch shells, kettle drums, flutes, and the chanting of Vedic mantras to indicate all good fortune. Text 41. Sunitihi Surichischasya Mahishyo Rukma Bhushite Aruhya Shibikam Sardham Uttane Nabhi Jagamatuhu. Synonyms: Sunitihi, Queen Suniti. Suruchihi, Queen Suruchi. Cha, also. Asya, of the king. Mahishyo, queens. Rukma Bhushite, being decorated with golden ornaments. Aruhya, getting on. Shibikam, a palanquin. Sardham, along with. Uttamena, the king's older son. Uttama. Jagmatuhu, all proceeded along. Translation: both the queens of King Uttanapada, namely Suniti and Suruchi, along with his other son Uttama, appeared in the procession. The queens were seated on a palanquin. Purport: After the departure of Dhromaraj from the palace, the king was very afflicted. But by the king, by the kind words of Saint Narada, he was partially satisfied. He could understand the great fortune of his wife Suniti and the great misfortune of Queen Surichi, for these facts were certainly very open in the palace. But still, when the news reached the palace that Dhromaraj was returning, his mother Suniti, out of her great compassion and due to being the mother of a great Vaishnava, did not hesitate to take the other wife Suruchi and her son Uttama on the same palanquin. That is the greatness of Queen Suniti, the mother of the great Vaishnava Dhromaraj. Texts 42 and 43. Tam दृष्ट्वोपवनाभ्यास व्यास आयान्तं तरसा रथात् अवरुह्य नृपस्तूर्णम् आसाद्य प्रेम विह्वलः परे परिरेभेऽङ्गजं दोर्भ्यां दीर्घोत्कण्ठ मनाः श्वसन् विश्वक्षेणाङ्घ्रि संस्पर्श हताशेषाङ्ग बन्धनं synonyms. Tam, him, Dhromaraj, Drishtva, having seen Upavana, the same forest, the small forest, Abhyashe, near, Ayantam, returning, Tarasa, with great haste, Rathat, from the chariot, Avaruhya, got down, Nripaha, the king, Tornam, immediately, Asadhya, coming near, Prema, with love, Vifalaha, overwhelmed, Parirebhe, he embraced, Angajam, his son, Dorbhyam, with his arms, Dirga, for a long time, Utkantha, anxious, Manaha, the king, whose mind, Swasan, breathing heavily, Vishwaksena, of the Lord, angry by the lotus feet, Samsparsha, being touched, Hata, very were destroyed, Asesha, unlimited, Agha, material contamination, Bandhanam, whose bondage. Translation. Upon seeing Dhruvaraj approaching the neighboring small forest, King Uttanpada, with great haste, got down from his chariot. He had been very anxious for a long time to see his son Dhruva, and therefore, with great love and affection, he went forward to embrace his long lost boy. Breathing very heavily, he embraced him with both arms. But Dhromaraj was not the same as before. He was completely sanctified by spiritual advancement due to being touched by the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 44. Atajighran मूर्ध्नि शीतैर्नयन वारिभिः स्नापयाम् आशा तनयम् जातोद्धाम मनोरथः synonyms. Atha, thereupon, ajigran, smelling, muhuhu, again and again, murdhni, on the head, shitaihi, cold, nayana, of his eyes, varibihi, with the water, snapayam, asha, he bathed, tanayam, son, jata, fulfilled, udhama, uddama, great, manaharatha, his desire. Translation. Reunion with Dhromaraj fulfilled King Uttanapada's long cherished desire, and for this reason he smelled Dhromara's head again and again and bathed him with torrents of very cold tears. Purport. By nature's way, when a man cries, there may be two causes. When When one cries in great happiness upon the fulfillment of some desire, the tears coming forth from the eyes are very cold and pleasing, whereas tears in times of distress are very hot. Text 45. Abhivandya pitu padao आश्रीभिश्च चाभिमन्त्रितः नाम मातरौ शीर्ष्णा सत्कृतः सज्जनाग्रहिणीः. Synonyms: Abhivandya, worshipping Pituhu, of his father, Padav, the feet, Ashirbihi, with benedictions, Cha, and Abhimantritah, was addressed, Nanama, he bowed, Matarau, to his both mothers, Shirshna, with his head, Satkritaha, was honored, Sajjana, of the nobles, Agranihi, the foremost. Translation. Then Dhrumaraj, the foremost of all nobles, first of all offered his obeisances at the feet of his father and was honored by his father with various questions. He then bowed his head at the feet of his two mothers. Purport. It may be questioned why Dhrumaraj offered his respect not only to his mother but also his stepmother, due to whose insults he had to leave home. The answer is that after achieving perfection by self-realization and seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, Dhrumaraj was completely freed from all contamination of material desire. Feelings of insult or honor in this material world are never perceived by a devotee. Lord Chaitanya therefore says that one has to be humbler than the grass, and he recommends more tolerant than the tree to execute devotional service. Dhrumaraj therefore has in this verse been described as Sajjanagrihi, the foremost of noble men. The pure devotee is the noblest of all, and he has no feelings of animosity towards anyone. Duality due to animosity is a creation of this material world. There is no such thing in the spiritual world, which is the absolute reality. Text 46. Sruchistam samuthapya padavanatam arbhakam parishvajyaha jiveti bhashpa gadgadaya gira. Synonyms: Suruchihi, Suruchihi, Queen Suruchi, Tam, him, Samuthapya, having picked up, Pada Avanatam, fallen at her feet, Arbhakam, the innocent boy, Parishvajya, embracing, Aha, she said, Jiva, may you live long, Iti, thus, Bhashpa, with tears, Gadgadaya, choked up, Gira, with words. Translation. Suruchi, the younger mother of Dhrumaraj, seeing that the innocent boy had fallen at her feet, immediately picked him up, embracing him with her hands, and with tears of feeling, she blessed him with the words, My dear boy, long may you live. Text 47. Yasya prasanno Bhagavan gunair मैत्र्यादिभिर्हरिः तस्मै नमन्ति भूतानि nimnam apa iva swayam. Synonyms: Yasya, anyone with whom Prasannaha is pleased, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Gunaihi, by qualities, Maitri, Adibihi, by friendship, etc., Harihi, Lord Hari, Tasmai, unto him, Namanti, offer respect, Bhutani, all living entities, Nimnam, to low ground, Apaha, water, Iva, just as Swayam, automatically. Translation: anyone who has transcendental qualities due to friendly behavior with the Supreme Personality of Godhead receives honor from all living entities, just as water automatically flows down by nature. I repeat, anyone who has transcendental qualities due to friendly behavior with the Supreme Personality of Godhead receives honor from all living entities, just as water automatically flows down by nature. Purport. The question may be raised in this connection why Surichi, who was not at all favorable, favorably disposed towards Dhruva, blessed him, long may you live, which means that she also desired good fortune for him. The answer is given in this verse. Since Dhruva Maharaj was blessed by the Lord due to his transcendental qualities, everyone was bound to offer him all respects and benediction, just as water by its nature flows downward. A devotee of the Lord does not demand respect from anyone, but wherever he goes, he is honored by everyone throughout the whole world with all respect. Srinivasa Acharya said that the six Goswamis of Vrindavana are respected throughout the entire universe because a devotee having pleased with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all emanations, automatically pleases everyone and thus everyone offers him respect. Text 48. Uttamascha ध्रुवश्चोभाव अन्योन्यं प्रेम विह्वलौ अंग संगाद उत्पुलकाव अष्ट्रोघम मुहुर ऊहतहु. Synonyms. Uttama cha, also uttama. Dhruva cha, dhruva, also. Ubhau, both. Anyonyam, one another. Prema vifalav, being overwhelmed with affection. Anga sangat, by embracing. Utpula cow, their hair stood up. Asru, of tears. Ogham, torrents. Muhu, again and again. Uhatuhu, they exchanged. Translation. The true brothers Uttama and Dhromaraj also exchanged their tears. They were overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love and affection, and when they embraced one another, the hair on both their bodies stood up. Text 49. Sunitir asya janani pranebhyopi priyam sutam upaguhya jahav adhim tadanga स्पर्श निवृता. Synonyms. Suniti, the real mother of Dhruva Maharaj. Asya, his. Janani, mother. Pranebhya, more than life air. Api, eva, api, even. Priyam, dear. Sutam, son. Upaguhya, embracing. Jahau, gave up. Adhim, all grief. Tat anga, his body. Sparsha, touching. Nirvrita, being satisfied. Translation. Suniti, the real mother of Dhruva Maharaj, embraced the tender body of her son, who was dearer to her than her own life, and thus forgot all material grief, for she was very pleased. Text 50. Payah stanabhyam sushrava नेत्रजैः सलिलैः शिवैः तदाभिषिच्यमानाभ्यां वीर वीरसुवो मुहुः. Payah, milk. Stanabhyam, from both births. Susrava, began to flow down. Netrajaihi, from the eyes. Salilaihi, by tears. Shivaihi, auspicious. Tada, at that time. Abhishichyamanabhyam, being wetted. Veera, my dear Vidura. Veera Suvaha, of the mother who gave birth to a hero. Muhu, constantly. Translation. My dear Vidura, Suniti was the mother of a great hero. Her tears, together with the milk flowing from her breast, wet the whole body of Dhrumaraj. This was a great auspicious sign. Purport. When deities are installed They are washed with milk, yogurt, and water, and this ceremony is called Abhisheka. In this verse, it has been especially mentioned that the tears which flowed down from the eyes of Suniti were all auspicious. This auspiciousness of the Abhisheka ceremony performed by his beloved mother is the indication that in the very near future Dhrumaraj would be installed on the throne of his father. The history of Dhrumaraj's leaving home was that his father refused to give him a place on his lap, and Dhrumaraj determined that unless he got the throne of his father, he would not come back. Now, this Abhisheka ceremony, performed by his beloved mother, was an indication that he would occupy the throne of Maharaj Uttanapada. It is also significant in this verse that Suniti, mother of Dhrumaraj, is described as Veerasu, a mother who produced a great hero. There are many heroes in the world, but there is no comparison with Dhomaraj, who was not only a heroic emperor of this planet, but also a great devotee. A devotee is also a great hero because he conquers the influence of Maya. When Lord Chaitanya inquired from Ramananda Raya about the most famous man in this world, the latter replied that anyone who is known as a great devotee of the Lord is to be accepted as the most famous. Next 51. Tam shashamsur jana rajnim drishtya te putra atiha pratilabdhas chitaram nashto rakshita mandalam bhavaha. Synonyms come unto Queen Suniti. Shashamsuhu offered praise. Janaha, the people in general. Ragnim, unto the queen. Drishtya, by fortune. Te, your putraha, son. Artiha, will vanquish all your pains. Pratilabdha, now returned. Chiram, since a long time. Nashtaha, lost. Rakshita, will protect. Mandalam, the globe. Bhavaha, earthly. Translation. The residents of the palace praised the queen. Dear queen, your beloved son was lost a long time ago, and it is your great fortune that he now has come back. It appears, therefore, that your son will be able to protect you for a very long time and will put an end to all your material pangs. Text 52. Abhyachitas Vaya Nunam Bhagavan प्रणताथिहा यद अनु अनुध्यायिनो धीरा मृत्युम जिग्युः सुदर्जयम सुदुर्जयम. Synonyms. Abhyarchitaha, worshipped, Tvaya, by you, Nunam, however, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Pranata Atiha, who can deliver his devotees from the greatest danger, Yat, whom Anubhyayinaha, constantly meditating upon Dhiraha, great saintly persons, Mrityum, death, Jigyuhu, conquered, Sudurjayam, which is very, very difficult to overcome. Translation. Dear Queen, you must have worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead who delivers his devotees from the greatest danger. Persons who constantly meditate upon him surpass the course of birth and death. This perfection is very difficult to achieve. Purport. Dhrumaraj was the lost child of Queen Suniti, but during his absence, she always meditated upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is able to rescue his devotee from all dangers. While Dhrumaraj was absent from his home, not only did he undergo severe austerities in the forest of Madhuvana, but at home also his mother prayed to the Supreme Lord for his safety and good fortune. In other words, the Lord was worshipped by both the mother and the son, and both were able to achieve the supreme benediction from the Supreme Lord. The word Sudurjayam, an adjective which indicates that no one can conquer death, is very significant. When Dhrumaraj was away from his home, his father thought that he was dead. Ordinarily, a king's son, only 5 years old and away from home in the forest, would certainly be supposed dead. But by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only was he saved, but he was blessed with the highest perfection. Text 53. Lalyamanam janair evam dhruvam sabhrataram nripaha aropya karinim krishtaham stuyamano vishat puram synonyms. Lalyamanam, being thus praised, janaihi, by the people in general, evam, thus, dhruvam, Maharaj Dhruva, sa Bhrataram, with his brother Nrapaha, the king, Aropya, placing Karinim on the back of a she elephant. Rishtaha, being so pleased, Stuyamanaha, and being so praised, Avishat, returned Puram to his capital. Translation. The sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, when everyone was thus praising Dhrumaraj, the king was very happy and he had Dhruva and his brother seated on the back of a she elephant. Thus he returned to his capital where he was praised by all classes of men. Text 54. Tatra taropashanklaptair lasan makara toranaihi savrundaihi kadali stambaihi hoga potascha tad vidhaihi synonyms. Tatra here and there. Upashankliptaihi set up. Lasat brilliant. Makara shark shaped. Toranaihi with arched gateways. Sa vrindaihi with bunches of fruits and flowers. Kadali of banana trees. Stambaihi with columns. Hoga potaihi with young beetle nut trees. Cha also tat vidaihi of that kind. Translation. The whole city was decorated with columns of banana trees containing bunches of fruits and flowers, and betel nut trees with leaves and branches were seen here and there. There were also many gates set up which were structured to give the appearance of sharks. Purport. Auspicious ceremonies with the decorations of the green leaves of palms, coconut trees, betel nut trees, and banana trees, and with fruits, flowers, and leaves are an age-old custom in India. To receive his great son Dhromaraj, King Uttanapada arranged a great reception, and all the citizens were enthusiastically took part. All the citizens very enthusiastically took part with great jubilation. Text 55. Chota Pallava Vasaishran Mukta Dama Vilambhi Upaskritam Pridvaram Apam Kumbaihi Sadipakaihi Synonyms. Chota Pallava with mango trees, Vasaihi cloth, Srik flower garlands, Muktadama strings of pearls, Vilambibhi hanging, Upaskritam decorated, Pratidvaram or at every gate, Apam full of water, Kumbaihi with water pots, Sa Deepaikaihi with burning lamps. Translation. At each and every gate, there were burning lamps and big water pots decorated with differently colored cloth, strings of pearls, garlands, and hanging mango leaves. Text 56. Prakarair gopuragarai sata kumbha परिच्छदैः सर्वतोऽलङ्कृतं श्रीमद् विमान शिखर द्युभिः synonyms प्राकारैः with surrounding walls gopura city gates आगारैः with houses shata kumbha golden परिच्छदैः with ornamental work sarvatah on all sides alankritam decorated srimat valuable beautiful vimana airplanes shikhara domes dyubihi glittering. Translation: in the capital city there were many palaces, city gates and surrounding walls which are already very beautiful, and on this occasion all of them were decorated with golden ornaments. The domes of the city palaces glittered, as did the domes of the beautiful airplanes which hovered over the city. Report. Regarding the mention of airplanes here, it is suggested by Srimad Vijayadvaja Tirtha that on the occasion the demigods from higher planetary systems also came in their airplanes to bestow their best blessings on Dhromaraj on his arrival at the capital city of his father. It also appears that all the domes of the city palaces, as well as the pinnacles of the airplanes, were decorated with ornamental work in gold and being reflected by the sunshine. They were all glittering. We can observe a specific distinction between Dhromaraj's time and modern days. For the airplanes in those days were made of gold, whereas at the present moment airplanes are made of base aluminum. This just gives a hint of the opulence of Dhromaraj's days and the poverty of modern times. Text 57. Mrishta Chatvara Rathyata Margam Chandana Chachitam Lajash Lajashkrashataihi Pushpa Phalais Tandulair Balibhir Yutam synonyms Mrishta fully cleansed Chatvara quadrangles Rathya highways Atta raised sitting places Margam, lanes, Chandana, with sandalwood, Chachitam, sprinkled, Laja, with fried rice, Akshataihi, and barley, Pushpa, with flowers, Palaihi, and fruits, Tandulaihi, with rice, Balibihi, auspicious presentations, Yutam, provided with. Translation: all the quadrangles, lanes and streets in the city and the raised sitting places at the crossings were thoroughly cleansed and sprinkled with sandalwood water, and all over the city auspicious grains such as rice and barley and flowers, fruits and many other auspicious presentations were scattered. Text 58 and 59. ध्रुवाय पथि दृष्टाय तत्र तत्र पुरः स्त्रियः सिद्धार्थक्षत दध्य अम्बु दूर्वा पुष्प फलैश्च उपजहृह प्र प्रयुञ्जाना वात्सलयाद् आशिषः सतिः शृण्वंस तद् वल्गु गीतानि प्राविशद् भवनं पितुः. Synonyms: Dhruvaya, on Dhruva, Pati, on the road, Drishtaya, seen, Tatra Tatra, here and there, Pura Striyaha, household ladies, Siddhartha, white mustard seed. Akshata, barley. Dadihi, curd. Ambu, water. Dhurva, newly grown grass. Pushpa, flowers. Phalani, fruits. Cha, also upajahruhu. They showered prayunjanaha, uttering vatsalyat, out of affection. Ashishaha, blessings. Satihi, gentle ladies. Shrinvan, hearing. Tat, there. Valgu, very pleasing. Geetani, songs. Pravishat, he entered. Bhavanam, the palace. Pituhu, of his father. Translation. Thus, as Dromaraj passed on the road from every place in the neighborhood, all the gentle household ladies assembled to see him, and out of maternal affection, they offered their blessings, showering him with white mustard seed, barley, curd, water, newly grown grass, fruits, and flowers. In this way, Dromaraj, while hearing the pleasing songs sung by the ladies, entered the palace of his father. Text 60. Mahamani Vrata Maye Sa Tasmin Bhavanottame Lalito Nitaram Pitra Nyavasad Divi Devavat. Synonyms: Mahamani, greatly valuable jewels. Vrata, groups of Maye, bedecked with. Saha, he, Dhrumaraj, Tasmin, in that. Bhavana Uttame, brilliant house. Lalitaha, being raised. Nitaram, always. Pitra, by the father. Nyavasat, lived there. Divi, in the higher planetary systems. Devavat, like the demigods. Translation: Dhrumaraj thereafter lived in his father's palace, which had walls bedecked with highly valuable jewels. His affectionate father took particular care of him, and he dwelled in that house just as the demigods live in their palaces in the higher planetary systems. Text 61. Payahpena Nibha Sayya Danta Rukma Parichadaha Asanani Maharhani Yatra Rokma Upa Upaskaraha. Synonyms: Payaha, milk. Phena, foam. Nibhaha, like. Shayyaha, bedding. Dantaha, made of ivory. Rukma, golden. Parichadaha, with embellishments. Asanani, sitting places. Maha Arhani, very valuable. Yatra, where. Rokmaha, golden. Upas Upaskaraha, furniture. Translation: the bedding in the palace was as white as the foam of milk and was very soft. The bedsteads were made of ivory with embellishments of gold, and the chairs, benches, and other sitting places and furniture were made of gold. Text 62. Yatra Spatika Kudyeshu Maha Marakateshu Cha Mani Pradeepa Abhanti Lalana Ratna Samyutaha. Synonyms: Yatra, where. Spatika, made of marble. Kudyeshu, on walls. Maha Marakateshu, bedecked with valuable jewels like sapphires. Also mani pradipah, lamps made of jewels. Abhanti, shined. Lalana, female figures. Ratna, made of jewels. Samyutah, held up. Translation: The palace of the king was surrounded by walls made of marble with many engravings made of valuable jewels like sapphires, which depicted beautiful women with the shining jewel lamps in their hands. Purport: The description of King Uttanapada's palace depicts the state of affairs many hundreds and thousands of years ago, long before Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam was compiled. Since it is described that Maharaj Dhruva ruled for 36,000 years, he must have lived in the Satyuga when people lived for 100,000 years. The life durations in the four yugas are also mentioned in the Vedic literature. In the Satyuga, people used to live for 100,000 years. In the Treta Yuga, people lived for 10,000 years. In Dwapar Yuga, they lived for 1,000 years. And in this age Kali Yuga, people may live up to 100 years. With the progressive advance of each new yuga, the duration of human life is reduced by 90%, from 100,000 to 10,000, and from 10,000 to 1,000, and from 1,000 to 100. It is said that Dhrumaraj is the great grandson of Lord Brahma. This indicates that Dhrumaraj's time was in the Satyuga, in the beginning of creation. During one day of Lord Brahma, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, there are many Satyugas. According to the Vedic calculation, at the present moment, the 28th millennium is current. It can be calculated that Dhrumaraj lived many millions of years ago, but the description of the palace of Dhruva's father is so glorious that we cannot accept that advanced human civilization did not exist even 40,000 or 50,000 years ago. There were walls like those in the palace of Maharaj Uttanapada even very recently during the Mughal period. Anyone who has seen the Red Fort in Delhi must have marked that the walls were made of marble and were once decorated with jewels. During the British period, all these jewels were taken away and dispatched to the British Museum. The conception of worldly opulence was formerly based mainly on natural resources, just as jewels, marble, silk, ivory, gold, and silver. The advancement of economic development was not based on big motor cars. Advancement of human civilization does not depend on industrial enterprises, but on possession of natural wealth and natural food, which is all supplied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that we may save time for self-realization and success in the human form of body. Another aspect of this verse is that Dhromaraja's father Uttanapada would very soon give up attachment for his palaces and would go to the forest for self-realization. From the description of Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, we can make a very thorough comparative study of modern civilization and the civilization of mankind in the other millenniums, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapar Yuga. Text 63. Udyanani cha ramyani vichitrair amara drumaihi kuja dvihanga mitunair gayan matta madhuvrataihi. Synonyms: Udyanani, gardens, cha, also, Ramyani, very beautiful, Vichitraihi, various, Amara Drumaihi, with the trees brought from the heavenly planets, Kuja, singing, Dvihanga, of birds, Mitunaihi, with pairs, Gayat, humming, Matta, mad, Madhu, Vrataihi, with bumblebees. Translation: the king's residence was surrounded by gardens wherein there were varieties of trees brought from the heavenly planets, and in those trees there were pairs of sweetly singing birds and almost mad bumblebees who made a very relishable buzzing sound. Purport: in this verse, the word Amara Drumaihi, with trees brought from the heavenly planets, is very significant. The heavenly planets are known as Amaraloka, the planets where death is very much delayed because the people there live for 10,000 years according to the calculations of the demigods, in which our 6 months are equal to one day. The demigods live in the heavenly planets for months, years, and 10,000s of years according to demigod time, and then again, after the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they fall down from again to this earth. These are the statements that can be collected from Vedic literature. As the people there live for 10,000 years, so also do the trees. Of course, here on this earth, there are many trees which live for 10,000 years. So, what to speak of the trees on the heavenly planets? They must live for more than many 10,000s of years, and sometimes, as practiced even now, some valuable trees are taken from one place to another. It is elsewhere stated that when Lord Krishna went to the heavenly planets with his wife Satyabhama, he took a Parijata flower tree from heaven and brought it to the earth. There was a fight between Krishna and the demigods due to the Parijata trees being taken from heaven to this planet. The Parijata was planted in the palace of Lord Krishna, which was occupied by Queen Satyabhama. The flower and fruit trees in the heavenly planets are superior, for they are very pleasant and tasteful. And it appears that in the palace of Maharaj Uttanapada, there were many varieties of such trees. Text 64. Vapyo Vaidurya Vapyo Vaidurya Sopanaha Padmotpala Kumudvatihi Hamsa Karandava Kulair Jushtas Chakrahva Sarasaihi. Synonyms: Vapyaha, lakes; Vaidurya, emerald; Sopanaha, with staircases; Padma, lotuses; Utpala, blue lotuses; Kumudvatihi, full of lilies; Hamsa, swans; Karandava, and ducks; Kulaihi, by flocks of; Jushtaha, inhabited; Ch- Chakrahva, by Chakravakas, geese; Sarasaihi, and by cranes. Translation: there were emerald staircases which led to lakes full of variously colored lotus flowers and lilies, and swans, karandavas, chakravakas, cranes, and similar other valuable birds were visible in those lakes. Purport: it appears that the palace was not only surrounded by compounds and gardens with varieties of trees, but there were small man-made lakes also, where the water was full of many colorful lotus flowers and lilies. And to get down to the lakes, there were staircases made of valuable jewels such as emeralds. By the beautifully positioned garden houses, there were many luxuriant birds such as swans, chakravakas, garandavas, and cranes. These birds generally do not live in filthy places like crows. The atmosphere of the city was very healthy and beautiful. It can simply be imagined from its description. Text 65. Uttanapado Rajarshihi Prabhavam Tanayasya Tam Shrutva Drishtva Tamam Prapede Vismayam Param synonyms Uttanapada King Uttanapada Rajarshihi great saintly king Prabhavam influence Tana Tanayasya of his son Tam that Shrutva hearing Drishtva seeing Adbhuta wonderful Tamam in the superlative degree Prapede happily felt Vismayam, wonder, Param, supreme. Translation: the saintly king Uttanapada, hearing of the glorious deeds of Dhruva Maharaj and personally seeing also how influential and great he was, felt very satisfied, for Dhruva's activities were wonderful to the supreme degree. Purport: when Dhruva Maharaj was in the forest executing his austerities, his father Uddanapada heard everything about his very wonderful activities. Although Dhruva Maharaj was not only the son of the king but was only 5 years old, he went to the forest and executed devotional service under strict austerity. Therefore, his acts were all wonderful, and when he came back home, naturally because of his spiritual qualifications, he became very popular amongst the citizens. He must have performed many wonderful activities by the grace of the Lord. No one is more satisfied than the father of a person who is credited with glorious activities. Maharaj Uttanapada was not an ordinary king. He was a Rajarshi, a saintly king. Formerly, this earth was ruled by only saintly king by formerly this earth was ruled by one saintly king only. Kings were trained to become saintly, therefore they had no other concern than the welfare of the citizens. These saintly kings were properly trained, and as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, also the science of God or the yoga system of the devotional service known as Bhagavad Gita was spoken to the saintly king of the sun planet, and gradually it descended through the Kshatriya kings who were generated from the sun and the moon. If the head of the government is saintly, certainly the citizens not only become saintly, but they are very happy because both their spiritual and physical needs and hankerings are satisfied. Text 66. Vishyodha व्यसनं तं च प्रकृतीनां च सम्मतम् अनुरक्त प्रजं राजा ध्रुवं चक्रे भुवः पतिं वीक्ष्य after seeing ऊढा व्ययसं mature in age tam dhruvam cha and prakritinam by the ministers cha also sammatam approved of Anurakta, beloved Prajam by his subjects, Raja, the king, Dhruvam, Dhruva Maharaj, Chakre, made Bhuvaha of the earth, Patim, master. Translation: when after concentration, King Uttanapada saw that Dhruva Maharaj was suitably mature to take charge of the kingdom and that his ministers were agreeable and the citizens were also very fond of him, he enthroned him as emperor of this planet. Purport: although it is misconceived that formerly the monarchical government was autocratic. From the description of this verse, it appears that not only was King Uttanapada a Rajarshi, but before installing his beloved son Dhruva Maharaj on the throne of the empire of the world, he consulted his ministerial officers, considered the opinion of the public, and also personally examined Dhruva's character. Then he installed him on the throne to take charge of the affairs of the world. When a Vaishnava king like Dhruva Maharaj is the head of the government of the entire world, the world is so happy that it is not possible to imagine or describe. Even now, if people would all become Krishna conscious, The democratic government of the present day would be exactly like the kingdom of heaven. If all people became Krishna conscious, they would vote for persons who are of the category of Dhrumaraj. If the post of chief executive were occupied by such a Vaishnava, all the problems of Sana satanic government would be solved. The youthful generation of the present date is very enthusiastic in trying to overthrow the government in different parts of the world. Unless people are Krishna conscious like Dhruva Maharaj, there will be no appreciable changes in government because people who hanker to attain political position by hook or by crook cannot think of the welfare of the people. They are only busy keeping their position of prestige and monetary gain. They have little they have very little time to think of the welfare of the citizens. Text 67. Atmanam cha pravayasam akalayya visham patihi vanam viraktaha pratishadha pratishatha pratishatha vims vimstranna atmanogatim chirims atmanam himself cha also pravayasam advanced in age Akalayya, considering Vishampati, King Uttanapada, Vanam to the forest, Viraktaha, detached, Pratishataha, departed, Vimrishan, deliberating on Atmanaha of the self, Gatim, salvation. Translation. After considering his advanced age and deliberating to the welfare of his spiritual self, King Uttanapada detached himself from worldly affairs and entered the forest. Purport. This is the sign of Rajarshi. This is the sign of a Rajarshi. King Uttanapada was very opulent and was emperor of the world, and these attachments were certainly very great. Modern politicians are not as great as kings like Maharaj Uttanapada, but because they get some political power for some days, they become so much attached to their positions that they never retire unless they are removed from their posts by cruel death or killed by some opposing political party. It is within our experience that the politicians in India do not quit their positions until death. This was not the practice in olden days, as it is evident from the behavior of King Uttanapada. Immediately after installing his worthy son Dhrumaraj on the throne, he left his home and palace. There are hundreds and thousands of instances like this in which kings in their mature age would give up their kingdoms and go to the forest to practice austerity. Practice of austerity is the main business of human life. As Maharaj Dhruva practiced austerity in his early age, similarly his father Maharaj Uttanapada in his old age also practiced austerity in the forest. It is, however, not possible in modern days to give up one's home and go to the forest to practice austerity. But if people of all ages would take shelter of the Krishna consciousness movement and practice the simple austerities of no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and no meat eating, and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly 16 rounds, by this practical method, it would be a very easy task to get salvation from this material world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, ninth chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Dhrumaraj returns home.
Haribo. Thank you so much, Praveen Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Really amazing chapter. Today we made a lot of progress. Really nice. Yesterday we only read 2 verses. Today we read like 30 verses.
Yes, Prabhu. But a lot of important points have been covered in this chapter in detail. The main point which I liked is that Prabhu, due to the influence of this illusory energy, we make a distinction between a friend and an enemy. When we become Krishna consciousness and when we become advanced in the Krishna consciousness, we can understand that there is no difference between a friend and an enemy.
Yes, Prabhu. So what will happen next?
Next is again there is a lot more to be covered about Dhruv Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
Next chapter is I think he fights with some demigods, extras or someone. 1 second, let me see what that next chapter is.
Yes.
Text 10. Dhruv Maharaj fight with the extras. Yes, exactly. Because his younger brother will be killed by the extras, so
Oh, yes,
out
Prabhu.
of retaliation, he would fight with the extras.
Yes, Prabhu. He goes and kills every one of them. Like,
Yeah.
even those who had nothing to do with it, they don't know what's happening. He just went and killed all of them. Yeah, this will be interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Now we go to
Thank you.
6th. चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादवाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम्
नामकारभूतानि सर्वशक्तिस्तत्रार्पितानि नतस्तरणीं काला एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन्ममा प्रीतिर्दैवमिद्विषं आयतनीयमुग्रः तृणादपि
Trinad.
सुनीचं करोतु श्रीकृष्णं
न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवताद्भक्तिरहेतुकी त्वयि हैनन्दतनुज किङ्करं परितं मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजसिर्धूळि सदृशं विचिन्तया नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदहृदया गिरा पुरकैर्निशितं वपुः कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रवृषायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे आश्लिष्य वा पादरतां नष्टु माम् अदर्शनमर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana,
Glory.
which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
Oh my Lord, your holy name can render all benedictions to beings and those who have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting the names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you holy. But I am so unfortunate that I have attraction.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh Almighty
O
Lord, I
Almighty
have
Lord,
not.
have.
Please continue.
Okay. O Almighty Lord, have no desired to accumulate wealth, nor do I have desired beautiful one. They want number of followers. I will do.
Oh son of Maharajananda Krishna, I am your I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your lotus feet.
Oh my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with the of love instantly with holy? When will my voice show up and when will the stand and the citation?
Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain. So even if he handles me roughly, his embrace or makes me broken hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything for his knowledge, God and relations. Relationship, trust, of future.
Jai,
Right.
Jai.
Sai Gaurav Premanand.
Here.
बहुजन्म करे यदि श्रवण कीर्तन स्तुताना वयक तपदे प्रेमद. If one is interested with the 10 offenses from the chanting of the Hare Krishna, the respect of endeavoring to chant the holy name of the holy name for many words, he will not get the law of it that is ultimate goal of this. The offenses against the chanting of the holy name are as follows. First offense to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name.
Second offense is to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Third offense is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master and consider him as a normal person, as an ordinary person. Fourth offense is to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in the pursuance of the Vedic version. Fifth offense is to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be an imagination. Sixth offense is to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. Seventh offense is to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord. Eighth offense is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, Karma Kanda. Ninth offense is to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Tenth offense is not to have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha Tirthanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Om Namaha. Nandakotya Vaishnavinda ki jai, Shila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai,
Jai.
Jai.
Prabhu. For recitation, it was really nice reading session. Nice progress.
Thank you so much for this.
Scrolling also.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Tomorrow everyone
Like,
try
Sandro.